Gus G is releasing a new album today called Still Burner. But apart from his solo career, I sat down with him and had an interview to talk about his early days, how he started with Firewind, many other projects he played in the 2000s before he joined Ozzy. We talked briefly about his career with Ozzy, his album with Ozzy. The first time I ever saw Ozzy live was with him on the guitar, and the only time I saw Ozzy solo. So he's a figure that I always gonna resonate with. We also talk a little bit about Greek soccer and his relationship with sport, relationship with the guitar, and what the future holds for his life right now. It was great to see Gus G after so many years. It was great to talk to him. He was very open to talk how he approached his songwriting of Firewind, his solo career, and other projects, and what's next for him. Anyways, this is the interview with Gus G talking about his career and the album that he's releasing today. Don't forget to check out Still Burner. And obviously, like, subscribe, share, comment if you like this kind of content. Hope to bring more to you. You mentioned you in Greece, and every time I talk to a European channel, I always ask the most important question, which is if you have a football team, what is it?
I am not. I'm not into football, so I don't have a team. The team of my city is called PAOK. That's
Yeah.
the big one. So when I was a kid, young kid, I supported them for a while, and then I completely lost interest in football. Guitar took over, and that was the end of it. I never really looked back. So
Were you in Greece when Greece won the Euros?
I was, yeah.
Yeah. I bet that was a crazy time. Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, it's funny. The day of the final, I was traveling to Japan. I was going there for some clinics, guitar clinics, and when I saw the semifinal, but the final, I think did we play with France? I think
It was Portugal. At
with
their oh,
Portugal,
France was semifinals and Portugal was finals.
right?
In Portugal, yeah.
I was on the flight when the final was happening, and I didn't know what the score was. But when I landed and went to immigration in Japan, I remember the immigration officer there. He looked at my passport. He goes, "Greece?" He looked at me and said, "Yeah." He says, "You won." Oh, I said, "Okay, thank you." Great.
For if you're watching this, you have no idea. Greece won against Portugal in Portugal. They were totally massive underdogs. They never had achieved anything close to in soccer after that and before that. So it was an unbelievable achievement. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
incredible.
It was a big year for us here. Yeah.
Incredible. You are also my first and only interaction with Ozzy when you play the Scream tour in Brazil. That's the only time I saw Ozzy solo and you playing at the tour. And I remember you did something really nice that when you did a guitar solo, your part, you played Brasileirinho in the
Yeah,
middle.
yeah,
Yeah. That
yeah,
was
yeah,
an
yeah.
incredible, nice touch. That was really cool.
When we went down to South America, then I wanted to get like for every country, I wanted to play something really significant, and my buddies are the guys from Angra. We toured before, so we were friends and stuff. So I was asking, I think I was asking Felipe, the bass player, and Kiko, the guitarist. I said, "What should I do? Do you have something to suggest to me?" And they're like, "Bro, you have to learn this Brasileirinho. If you play the main theme of that, everybody's gonna go wild." And I learned it like the day before. I just searched it on YouTube and I learned it the best I could. And I played the first few bars, and they were
Yeah.
right. It was
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Also incredible hard piece to play. It's not easy at all.
Yes,
It's not easy at all.
it's
What?
difficult. Yeah.
Just going back before we talked that you went to Boston at Berkeley, but before that in Greece, there was any scene growing up in rock and metal, or you were mainly focused on things outside?
I was mainly focused on things outside, to be honest. I didn't know there was a scene here in Greece until somebody told me, like somebody at school, like, oh, there are some death metal and black metal bands, like Rotting Christ and bands like Septic Flesh. I'm like, what are these names? Crazy names. But yeah, they have record deals in Germany and they tour. And I was like, oh, really? But at that time, there wasn't much of a scene. I think probably it was just a couple of bands that were doing stuff abroad. Um, and then it was like just local bands, um, just doing local stuff, really, very underground.
Yeah. What are outside? What are the things that got your attention growing up?
Well, obviously, growing up watching MTV and, I was exposed to the bands of the time, obviously, the big bands of the time, but the big bands are today as well, Metallica, Guns N' Roses, Nirvana when I was in my teens. I got into them. I liked Nirvana actually. Um, and then, I got into, a lot of heavy stuff, Sabbath. And later on, around the time I was 15 or 16, I discovered shred guitar players, Paul Gilbert and Yngwie Malmsteen. Somebody gave me like a cassette of Paul Gilbert, and like it changed my life. I wanted to. That's when I took guitar playing really seriously, and I was practicing. I went down the rabbit hole of '80s shredders, and I, that's why I wasn't into football. So
Yeah, yeah. There's no time for either. Yeah, yeah.
it takes dedication to learn how to play that stuff. So there was no time for anything else.
Yeah, and then that made you move to. You mentioned you did a semester in at Berkeley in Boston. That was the reason you went there to sort of pursue the technical approach, or more like studioso approach, or
Just to get out, I think I needed more of a, like, it was more of a reason to get out of the country than rather than anything. I mean, I had a scholarship. I did like a summer program there, and I made some friends and I liked it, and I wanted to go back to study full time. So I finished high school here, and then I went back. But then when I started doing the proper college thing, I realized quickly it was not for me. So after a while, I just dropped out, and I did stay in America for about a year because I had my student visa and I had rented already an apartment in Boston. So I stayed there for like 3 months, and then I moved down to Florida with my uncle because I have some family there, my mom's brother, and I started working at his restaurant and just you know trying to figure out what I'm gonna do.
sorry, you started with Star Firewind, right?
Kind of, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
When I started doing the first demos, it was kind of weird time for this kind of classic metal at the time in America. Late '90s, the rise of new metal was coming up, so it was it was so out of touch to play the stuff that I was into and the stuff that I wanted to play. So, but, the Scandinavian scene was rising, so that was blowing up. So I went back to Greece, and eventually I ended up in Sweden with some friends that were recording there. And yeah, eventually I ended up staying in Gothenburg on and off for about 3 years. I started a band there, and that's how I got my start in the music industry, basically the music business.
yeah. I mean, Firewind is still going strong. Like you're still releasing albums since that time, right? Apart from a few projects in between. Do you, looking back when you started, and you mentioned metal was not really cool at the time, it was just a lot of changes. Releasing shredding and more technical music at that time was not really well received. What are you trying to achieve musically with Firewind?
Well, I just wanted to have some of my favorite, just play stuff that my favorite bands were doing, basically trying to replicate that. I was into like Racer X and Rising Force and Cacophony, and then I liked other stuff like Michael Schenker Group, MSG, and so I wanted to have a lot of cool guitar solos and great vocals. Basically, all my favorite guitar players were partnered up with great singers. Um, and just basically put my twist on that kind of style. Yeah.
Yeah. Any album from Firewind? I know it's hard to talk about all because basically all your sons, but any album with the Firewind that you mainly you think that you reach what you wanted to achieve musically?
Ooh,
It's a softer way to ask which one's your favorite album.
I don't have one favorite. You know, I think there's just some records that are better than others. Um, Hard to say, man. I think, you know, Immortals is one of my favorites for sure. Um, the last two records we did, I really like. I like the last one, Stand United. Um,
2020 album was really good too.
yeah, the self-title is really
Yeah,
good. Like, you know, the stuff we
yeah,
released the past decade, basically, it's really strong, really good. I think we've matured nicely as a band, and me as a composer, and where I took the sound, I think. Um, you know, the Premonition is probably kind of like a landmark album.
yeah,
Somebody would argue with that, you know. So I don't know, but it is the album that broke us onto bigger audience internationally. So yeah,
yeah. And then that was around that time that you got with Ozzy, right?
exactly around that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was apart? I think apart of living a dream, playing with we mentioned Black Sabbath before. What are the biggest thing that you learned about that period? Because it was one album and one tour, right?
That was the original deal, like one album and one tour, but it turned out into several tours over the years, you know. I mean, they kept asking me to come back and play, which was nice. Um, yeah, I mean, I learned a lot, you know, like obviously just learning to perform at this different level, you know, just um, yeah, the overall performance thing, just to see how a big organization like that works, just like on a professional level, you know, you learn a lot just by being around, like a fly on the wall. No, it was great times.
Yeah, big. That was at the time that you played for your biggest audiences, like, or you play with, yeah,
Absolutely, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
without a doubt. Like, you know, all the arenas, the stadiums, stuff like that.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Going back just a couple of years, around 2000, I saw on your page on Wikipedia that there's a couple of different projects, right? Very similar years that you release with Mystic Prophecy, Dream Evil, Night Rage, three albums, four albums, 2001, 2003, 2004, very similar dates. Why was that happening? Why so many albums around that time?
Yeah, that was happened because when I first started out, I was involved in these bands and I was writing with them, but none of these bands were signed or anything. It was just like in the demo stages. So I was just like keeping my cards open, so to speak, and writing with different people and see what would work in a sense. But then all these bands were kind of like working on their debut album at the same time, and they were offered record deals around the same time. And all of a sudden, I was in a situation where I had like three or four albums out the same year, and it was kind of strange, you know, because people kept asking me, "What are you doing? Like, who is your priority? What are you doing here?" And you know, it took me a while to figure it out. I just liked playing with all these guys, and of course, I learned a lot from each situation. And I kind of kept doing it until I couldn't anymore. That was the idea, you know, to
Yeah.
keep on going until I can. And eventually, I had to come to a decision. Like I was also confused, you know, what to do. And I mean, I wanted to keep going with everything, you know, that I was doing at the time. It was creative. It was fun.
Just to put in perspective, you have Regressors in 2003 with Mystic Prophecy. You have Evilize with Dream Evil also in 2003, and Sweet Vengeance with Night Rage, which I think is the most underrated one that you did with those ones. I really like that album.
I think 2003. Did I also release Firewind, Burning Earth? Maybe it came out in Japan, but then in Europe came out 2004. So I
I
was
think it
like
was,
on,
yeah, Japan 2003. Yes,
yeah.
in
So I was like on
2004.
four albums. It
Yeah.
was insane. Yeah.
Plus, you got there was also an EP with Dream Evil at the same year too. I think maybe things that didn't were released before.
Yeah, yeah.
On Fire.
It was wild, man. It was a lot of work, but you know, I didn't care. I was in my early 20s and I was traveling between Greece and Germany and Sweden, and all I did was just play guitar and work with these bands, and it was great. I was full of energy with that, and very excited as well to see what would happen next.
Yeah, it's important to be just be exposed to all those new things, and then you sort of at the end you kind of figure out what you wanted to do. What's the real deal? Yeah. So at this point with Firewind and your solo career and other different projects, and you also has a lot of guest appearances in a couple albums. When you write and you compose, it just comes, and whatever happens, you're like, okay, this is a Firewind stuff. This is a Gus G solo, or you kind of sit down and like, I want to do a solo album. I want to record for this album.
When I'm not in an active session, yeah, it's like I'm writing stuff and then we'll see what happens with it. I kind of put it on the side and then I collect ideas, and then eventually I decide when I go into writing an album. Like with Steel Burner, for example, I had like 5 songs, but last summer I decided, okay, now I have to put it together. So I purposely sat down and finished like another 4 or 5 songs. I had
Yeah.
the ideas laying around, but I sat down and kind of completed everything. More like, getting to work.
So you have to do it because you gotta finish.
Yeah, because at some point you have to finish.
Yeah.
It was and I knew that I had also a Firewind production that was just starting as well. Because originally the plan was to do a Firewind record this year and then like a solo album sometime down the line, but it didn't pan out like that. So I shifted gear. I kind of like put the solo album first for this year. Yeah, and then decided to spend more time with the Firewind album for next year. I had a kid also last summer, so I was like, okay, I should probably finish these 2 albums because I don't know when I'm gonna be able to have some time to sit down and write properly after the baby comes.
Is that first kid?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, congrats, man. That's
Thanks.
sweet. Very, very good. Steel Burner, April 24th, original date release, fifth studio album. And I saw the rosters of vocalists that you have on the album: Doro, Dino Jelisic, Matt Barlow, Ronnie Romeo. I'm always curious to understand how those invitations happens. I guess it's people that you meet throughout those years in the music industry. But when do you find, oh, I'm writing this riff and I think Dino would be a really good singer for that?
Pretty much, you described it actually.
Yeah.
First of all, it's like people you meet in the scene over the years. So I knew all of them; they were friends of mine. Um, some closer than others just more like acquaintances. I mean, I met Matt recently, and we hung out a few times, and we really hit it off as people and stuff. And I met his family, and he spent some time here in Greece, and he's somebody I always admired as a singer. And then I thought, well, we should do something. Yeah, yeah. It always starts like that. And then, like you said, the second part is that I have songs sitting around that for some reason they didn't work in the past, or if maybe I have something, and because I don't write with somebody specific in mind. Um, I write stuff, and then some stuff eventually you meet somebody, or you're thinking, oh, this would be a great song for Ronnie or somebody like Matt. That's exactly what happened with this record. And I didn't want to have too many guests. I think there's 4 singers on it, and they're all killer legends or legends in the making, for that matter. And so yeah, for example, with the stuff with Ronnie that I'm doing, I had several ideas, and I thought I just sent him to check out the stuff that I thought would fit his vibe, at least in my mind, anyways. And so that's how I usually work it out.
Do they collaborate with the rest of the
Yeah,
songs? Yeah, that's
yeah,
great.
yeah. Like in the case of Doro, she wrote the whole lyric and vocal melody. Matt did the same. With Ronnie, we had the song with the melody. We had it with Dennis Ward, but Ronnie did the lyric. And with Dino, it was also like a co-write. I also had the melodies because I co-wrote it with another guy, Jacob Bunton. Um, Actually, Jacob sang on my second album. He's a great singer too, but he's a great songwriter as well. So we had that, and then I thought that would be a good song for Dino.
Yeah, incredible vocalist. He's so
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
With Dino was like always like talking about doing something, and it's he's so busy and I'm so busy, and then I called him up finally and I said, "Look, I got this song. You know, I think we should do it now, man. Like this is the time now, because I don't know
Yeah.
when I'm gonna do another solo record next. If it's gonna be like another 5 years, or it could be sooner. But like, let's just try and get it done now. And yeah, I'm glad we've managed to do it.
To wrap it up, just tell me about the tour, and obviously, you talk about new Firewind album that it's you're starting to have an idea to do by next year. So they'll be the next two steps, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, this year is gonna be busy. We have a tour with Ronnie, me and Ronnie, this fall in Europe, um, October, November. Firewind's gonna be playing a lot of festivals in the summer. So it'll be busy, promoting Steel Burner. And at the same time, I think we're gonna start putting plans into motion for the next Firewind album. It's being mixed now as we speak. Um, so I don't have a release date for it yet, but I think probably in the first quarter of 2027 we will have the new Firewind album out.
Oh, sweet. Very, very good. The camera works. Appreciate it.
Yes, it does actually.
It
I don't
did,
know
yeah.
why. Maybe it was all the other guys had unstable connections because with you it's like perfect.
It's perfect. You haven't flinched at all, like glitch anything like that. Really good. Guys, I appreciated your time. Talk about briefly your career and the new album and new
Thanks,
projects.
man.
It's been a pleasure to talk to you since I saw you 16 years ago. Jesus
16 years
Christ.
ago.
My gosh, man. Oh God.
It was a
I
lifetime ago, yeah.
I remember because I had a longer hair like yours, but that it was great time.
Excellent. Have a good
Cheers,
one,
man.
man.
Thanks, you too. Good luck with the kid.
Bye.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Bye
you. Thank you.
bye.
Bye.